The wind screamed across the broken colony. The sky was red with dust and sharp stones rolled like knives in the storm. Daniel pulled his coat tighter around his daughters. The little girls clung to his arms, shivering. Their home was half destroyed, its roof bent, its walls cracked. Every day the storms grew stronger, and every day their food grew smaller. Daniel was a human man, strong once, but now his face was tired, his beard full of dust. He had lost his wife to sickness a year ago. Since then, he was both father and mother to his 2 young daughters, Emily and Sarah. He tried to smile for them, but inside his heart was breaking. One night, when the storm was quieter, Daniel went outside to look for anything useful. He carried a lantern through the ruins, his boots crunching on broken glass. That was when he saw her. A tall figure stood in the shadows of a collapsed wall. Her skin glowed faintly in the dark, pale silver with lines like crystal veins. Her eyes were not human. They were deep and shining like pools of blue fire. She was an alien, one of the people hated by the colony. Daniel froze. Everyone knew the law. Humans and aliens must not live together, must not share families. The Galactic Council called it dangerous. Anyone who broke this law was punished, sometimes by death. But the woman looked weak, her clothes torn, her hands shaking from the cold. Daniel whispered, "Who are you?" The woman stepped back, afraid. I am no one. My people cast me out. I have no shelter. If I stay outside tonight, the storm will kill me." Her voice was soft but heavy with sadness. Daniel could see she was desperate, just like him. For a moment he thought of walking away. If anyone saw him with her, his daughters would be taken, his home destroyed. But then he looked at her eyes again. They were full of loneliness, the same loneliness he felt every night when he tucked his children into bed. Daniel took a deep breath. His daughters needed more than food. They needed love, care, a gentle hand that he could not give alone. He could not be both mother and father forever. He looked at the woman and said words that even surprised himself. "I need a mother for my daughters, and you need shelter." The alien woman blinked. She stared at him as if she did not believe what she had heard. "You would take me in? A stranger? An outcast?" Daniel's voice shook, but he stood firm. "Yes, my daughters are young. They cry for their mother every night. Maybe you can help. In return, you will not die in the storm. You will have a roof over your head." The woman hesitated. She wrapped her arms around herself as if holding in a secret pain. Finally, she whispered, "My name is Sira." Daniel nodded. "Sira, I am Daniel. But listen to me. If they discover you in my house, they will not forgive. They will not forgive me. They will not forgive my daughters. Do you understand?" Sira's blue fire eyes glimmered with fear. She lowered her head. "Yes, I understand. But if you help me, I will give everything I can to your children. They will not be alone." Daniel guided her quietly back to his home. Inside, the little girls looked up with wide eyes. Emily, the older one, held her sister close. "Papa, who is she?" Daniel knelt beside them. "Her name is Sira. She will stay with us for now. She is a friend." The girls did not speak, only stared at the strange woman with glowing eyes. Sira knelt slowly so she would not frighten them. She reached out her hand gently but did not touch. "Hello," she said in a soft voice. "I will not hurt you." The girls said nothing, but they did not cry. That was enough for Daniel. Later, when the daughters were asleep, Daniel sat across from Sira at the small wooden table. The lantern flickered between them. The storm outside howled against the walls. Daniel asked, "Why did your people cast you out?" Sira looked down. Her voice was almost a whisper. "Because I broke the law. I saved a human once. They said I betrayed my kind. Now I have no people, no home." Daniel studied her face. She was not like the cold monsters the colony spoke of. She was tired, broken, but not evil. In her pain, he saw something familiar, something human. The night grew darker. Daniel felt the weight of what he had done. If the neighbors found out, if the soldiers searched his house, everything could be lost. Yet for the first time in many months, hope warmed his chest. Sira suddenly leaned forward, her voice sharp with fear. "Daniel, you must know this truth. If they find us together, if they discover I live under your roof, they will not forgive. They will kill us both." Her words cut the air like a blade. Daniel's hands trembled, but he did not look away. He knew she was right. But he also knew something stronger. His daughters needed her, and she needed them. The storm outside roared louder, shaking the house. Inside, the secret agreement was made. A human father and an alien outcast would risk everything to survive as one family, and in the darkness, danger was already watching. The morning sun crept through the cracks in the roof. The storm had passed, but dust still floated in the air like smoke. Daniel woke first, his back aching from the hard chair. He looked around the small house. His daughters were still sleeping, curled together under thin blankets. And in the far corner, quiet as a shadow, sat Sira. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the pale light. She had not slept at all. Her eyes, those deep pools of blue fire, stayed open through the night. She was listening, always listening, as if danger might break through the door at any moment. Daniel rubbed his face and whispered, "You should rest." Sira shook her head. "I do not sleep easily, not in strange places, not when I must be ready to run." Her words were sharp but soft, like a knife wrapped in cloth. Daniel understood. She was not safe here. Neither was he. A new role. When the girls woke, they found Sira sitting quietly at the table. Emily, the older daughter, hid behind her father's leg. Little Sarah, only 6, clutched a doll made of cloth and broken buttons. Both girls stared. Daniel crouched to their level. "This is Sira. She will stay with us for a while. She is family now." Emily's eyes narrowed. "She's not Mama." The word struck Daniel's heart like a stone. His wife's memory still lived strong inside the children. He swallowed the pain and nodded. "No, she's not Mama, but she will help us. She will care for you when I cannot." Sira knelt low, lowering her glowing eyes to meet theirs. "I will not replace your mother," she said softly. "But I promise I will keep you safe." Sarah tilted her head, curious but shy. She reached out her little doll towards Sira. The alien woman hesitated, then touched it gently with her long, thin fingers. For the first time, Sarah smiled. It was a small step, but Daniel felt hope stir. The whispering neighbors. That afternoon, Daniel walked to the well for water. The colony was already busy. Men repaired broken roofs, women traded scraps of food, children carried buckets. But the moment Daniel appeared, voices lowered. Eyes turned. "Do you see him?" One man whispered. "He talks to himself at night," a woman muttered. "I saw shadows in his window. Maybe he hides something. Or someone." Daniel kept his head down, gripping the bucket until his knuckles went white. He knew the colony watched him closely since his wife's death. A widower with 2 daughters, some pitied him, others judged. Now if they even guessed Sira lived in his home, he hurried back, his heart heavy with fear. Lessons in trust inside, Daniel found Sira trying to show the girls how to mend torn clothes with fine, careful stitches. Her hands moved with alien precision, but her voice was gentle. "See," she said to Emily. "You guide the needle like guiding a starship. Slow, steady, and it will follow your path." Emily frowned, but she copied the motion. Her line was messy, but Sira only smiled. "Better than my first try," she said. Daniel paused at the door. His daughters were listening. Really listening. Something he had not seen since their mother died. For a moment, peace filled the room, but peace never lasted long. A dangerous reminder that night. While the girls slept, Daniel and Sira sat again at the table. The lantern burned low. "You should not teach them too much," Daniel warned. "If they speak of you at the well or in the market, the neighbors will know." Sira's jaw tightened. "Do you want me to hide in the cellar forever? They already look at you with suspicion. If they find me, they will not only punish me, they will take your daughters away." Daniel's chest tightened. He could not lose his girls. He clenched his fists. "Then we must be careful." "Very careful." Sira leaned closer. Her glowing eyes burned in the dim light. "I agreed to stay because you offered me shelter. But I will not live like a ghost. If I am to be a mother to your daughters, then I must be seen by them, felt by them. Otherwise, this is nothing but a lie." Her words hit him hard. She was right. But the risk was terrifying. A child's question. The next morning, as Daniel chopped wood outside, he heard soft voices from the doorway. "Are you really our new mother?" Sarah asked. Sira froze. Her silver hands rested on the table. She looked down at the little girl, her face unreadable. Finally, she shook her head. "No, I cannot be your mother." "But I can love you like one." Sarah's eyes grew wide. "If you love us, will you stay forever?" Sira's throat tightened. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Forever is a dangerous word." Emily, standing behind her sister, crossed her arms. "Papa says if they find out, they'll take you away." "Is that true?" Sierra's glowing eyes filled with sadness. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Daniel rushed in, his axe still in hand. "Enough questions," he said quickly. His voice was firm, but fear trembled inside him. The girls went quiet, but their eyes carried the truth. They already knew something was wrong. That night, long after everyone had gone to bed, Sierra sat by the window. She stared out into the dark colony streets. Shadows moved near the well. A figure lingered too long, watching Daniel's house. Sierra's voice was barely a breath. "They know." Daniel, awake in his chair, followed her gaze. His stomach turned cold. The whispers of the neighbors, the glances, the questions. It was only a matter of time before someone reported them. The fragile agreement between man and alien, between father and outcast, was already cracking under the weight of fear. And somewhere beyond the colony, the law was waiting. The night air was heavy with silence. Daniel lay awake on the rough bed, listening to every creak of the wooden walls. The girls slept in the next room, their soft breath steady, but his heart beat too fast to rest. Across the small house, Sierra sat by the window again, her glowing eyes watching the dark street outside. She had hardly moved since the sun went down. She was waiting, always waiting, as if danger walked close. Daniel finally whispered, "You see something, don't you?" Sierra nodded slowly. "There is a man who passes every night. He does not fetch water. He does not speak to others. He only looks at your house and then walks away." Daniel's stomach turned, a spy. He had known the whispers would spread, but hearing it in her calm voice made the fear real. If the man reported them, the council patrols would come. And when they came, they did not ask questions. The next day, Daniel went into the market with his daughters. He carried a small basket of old tools to trade for bread. He kept his head down, but he could feel the eyes following him. The people around him did not smile. Some muttered under their breath. One woman spat on the ground when he walked past. Emily clung to his coat tightly, her face pale. Back at home, Sierra tried to distract the girls by showing them how to shape clay figures with careful hands. Sarah laughed when her figure collapsed into a lump, and for a moment the house felt warm again. But Daniel could not enjoy it. Every sound outside, every knock on wood, every step in the dirt path made his body stiff with dread. That night, as the wind rattled the shutters, a new sound broke the silence. The low hum of engines. Daniel's blood ran cold. He rushed to the window. In the distance, lights cut through the dark. A patrol ship was landing near the colony square. He turned to Sierra. "They're here." Her face was calm, but her hands tightened against the table. "Then it has begun." Daniel's daughters stirred, half awake, sensing the fear in their father's voice. Emily asked, "Papa, who is coming?" Daniel forced a weak smile. "Just soldiers. Go back to sleep." But his hands shook as he carried them back to bed. He kissed their foreheads, whispering prayers he no longer believed. Minutes later, heavy boots pounded against the dirt outside. A voice shouted in the distance, ordering houses to open their doors. The patrol was searching. They were getting closer. Daniel pulled up a loose wooden board from the floor. Beneath it, a small cellar waited, cold and dark. He turned to Sierra. "Hide. Now." She looked at him once, her glowing eyes filled with both trust and fear, then nodded. She slipped into the hole, curling her tall body tightly to fit. Daniel pulled the board back over her just as the first knock thundered at the door. Open by order of the council. Daniel forced his face to calm and opened the door. 3 soldiers stood outside, their black armor shining in the lantern light. Behind them, neighbors gathered, whispering, eager to see. The lead soldier stepped in without asking. "We received a report. An outcast alien is hiding in this sector. You will let us search." Daniel's heart thumped so hard he thought they could hear it. He stepped aside. "Search, then." The soldiers moved through the house, opening cupboards, lifting blankets, stomping across the wooden floor. Emily and Sarah sat frozen on their bed, wide-eyed. The youngest almost called out when a soldier lifted her doll roughly, but Daniel shook his head quickly, silently begging her to stay quiet. One soldier tapped his boot on the floorboard above Sierra's hiding place. Daniel's body tensed, sweat dripping down his back. The soldier frowned, then turned away. The board held. After long minutes, the lead soldier returned. Nothing, but before leaving, he leaned close to Daniel, his voice low and sharp. "If you hide her, we will find out. And when we do, you and your children will pay." Daniel swallowed hard, forcing himself not to react. The soldiers marched out and the neighbors drifted away, disappointed that no blood had been spilled tonight. When the door shut, Daniel rushed to the cellar and pulled up the board. Sierra climbed out slowly, her face pale but her eyes fierce. She whispered, "They will come again. Next time they will not leave so easily." Daniel looked at his daughters, who clung together in silence, their small bodies shaking. He knew Sierra was right. Their fragile secret would not hold forever. The council had marked them now. That night, no one in the house truly slept. Outside, the patrol ship remained in the square, its lights cutting across the colony like a watchful eye. Inside, 4 souls sat in a small, broken home, bound together by fear, by need, and by a dangerous promise. The patrol ship stayed in the colony square for 3 more days. Its shadow stretched across the homes like a warning. Every morning, soldiers walked the streets, checking doors, asking questions, watching faces. Daniel felt their eyes on him every time he left for water or food. The neighbors whispered louder now. He could feel the noose tightening around his family. Inside the house, the air was heavy with fear. Sierra moved like a ghost, quiet and careful, never near the windows, never outside. The children clung to her more each day. Sarah asked her to braid her hair. Emily asked her to tell stories at night. They had begun to see her as something more than a stranger. But that bond was dangerous, and Daniel knew it. One evening, just as the sky turned black, soldiers came again. Their boots struck the dirt with force. A knock shook the door louder than thunder. Daniel's blood froze. "Open! Council inspection!" He looked at Sierra. Her glowing eyes were sharp with fear, but she nodded and moved quickly into the cellar. Daniel lowered the wooden board, his hands trembling. The knock came again, harder this time. Daniel opened the door. 4 soldiers pushed inside. Their leader's helmet reflected the lantern light like a mirror. He said nothing at first, only scanned the room with cold eyes. "We will search again," he said finally. This time, thoroughly. Daniel's daughters stood close to him. Emily tried to look brave, but Sarah clutched his coat with both hands. The soldiers moved through the house, opening cupboards, throwing blankets aside, overturning small chests. The sound of breaking wood filled the air. Daniel's fist clenched, but he did not move. One soldier lifted Sarah's doll, shaking it as if it might hide a secret. Sarah cried out, "No! Don't hurt her!" The soldier smirked and tossed the doll aside. Sarah rushed to grab it. Her eyes were wet with tears and her little mouth opened before she could stop herself. "You'll scare Mama," Daniel's heart stopped. The room went silent. Emily's eyes widened and she slapped a hand over her sister's mouth, but the word was already spoken. The lead soldier turned his head sharply. "Mama," he repeated, his cold gaze fixed on Daniel. "Your wife is dead, is she not?" Daniel forced a shaky laugh. She misses her mother. Children speak strangely when afraid." He bent low, whispering to Sarah, "Quiet, little one." But the soldier did not look convinced. He stepped closer, his armored boots heavy on the wooden floor. His eyes swept the room, then settled on the corner where the floorboards hid the cellar. He lifted his foot and pressed down slowly. The sound of wood creaking echoed in Daniel's skull. Beneath the board, Sierra held her breath. "Strange," the soldier muttered. "This part feels hollow." Daniel's chest tightened. His daughters clung to him, trembling. In that moment, Daniel knew if the soldier bent down, if he pulled up that board, everything would end. His family would be torn apart. He forced himself to move. "The floor is damaged," Daniel said quickly. He stepped in front of the soldier. "Storms have eaten the wood. I've no time to fix it. You can check every corner. But there is nothing here but dust and rot." The soldier stared at him, silent for a long moment. The other soldiers shifted restlessly, eager to move on. Finally, the leader stepped back. "We will return," he said coldly. "And if we find that you are hiding anything, your daughters will not stay with you. They will be placed with proper families. Do you understand?" Daniel's face burned with rage, but he kept his voice calm. "I understand." The soldiers left, their boots striking the ground like hammers. The door closed, leaving the house in silence. Daniel dropped to his knees and pulled up the floorboard. Sierra emerged slowly, her silver skin pale, her eyes wide. She looked at Sarah, who hugged her doll tightly, her cheeks still wet with tears. The alien woman whispered, "She called me Mama." Daniel's throat closed. He could not deny it. His daughter had spoken the truth of her heart, and the soldiers had nearly heard enough to destroy them. That night, no one spoke much. Emily sat close to her sister, guarding her as if her small hands could protect her from the world. Daniel sat at the table, staring at the wall, his mind full of fear. And Sira stood near the window watching the patrol lights outside. When the girls were finally asleep, Daniel said quietly, "We cannot keep doing this. They will come again. They will search harder. Next time we won't escape." Sira's glowing eyes met his. "Then we must decide. Do we keep hiding and wait for them to destroy us, or do we run before they can?" Daniel looked at his daughters sleeping peacefully, their small faces soft in the lantern glow. He had promised to protect them no matter the cost. Now the cost was rising higher with every breath. He whispered, more to himself than to her, "How far can a man run when the whole galaxy stands against him?" Outside, the patrol ship hummed like a hungry beast waiting for its prey. Inside, fear wrapped itself tighter around their fragile family. The choice between hiding and fleeing was no longer distant. It was coming soon, faster than they were ready for. The nights grew colder after the second search. Daniel felt the walls of his home closing in, as if every shadow outside carried the eyes of soldiers. The patrol ship still rested in the colony square, its lights burning like an unblinking eye. His daughters tried to play, tried to laugh, but their voices were quieter now. Even their games carried fear. Sira moved through the house like she belonged, yet always with caution. She helped Emily with her lessons, taught Sarah songs in a language the girls could not understand but still loved to repeat. Daniel watched them, torn between comfort and dread. Every smile his daughters gave Sira was a small flame of hope, but every flame risked burning them all. One evening, while the girls were asleep, Daniel sat at the table sharpening a small knife. His hands worked slowly, his mind restless. Sira came to him, silent for a while, then said, "You do not sleep anymore." He looked up at her, the lantern light flickering against her silver skin. "How can I? They will come again. And if they take you, if they take my daughters—" His voice broke. "I cannot lose anyone else." Sira lowered her gaze. She stood in silence, then finally spoke, her voice heavy. "You should know why I was cast out. You deserve to know the truth before you decide if I stay." Daniel's chest tightened. He had wondered, but he never pressed. "Tell me," he said. Sira sat across from him. Her glowing eyes softened, but pain flickered inside them. "Among my people, the law is clear. We do not interfere with human lives. If a human is dying, we let them die. It is the law of separation. But once, long ago, I saw a human child hurt in the desert. His parents were gone, and he was bleeding. I could not walk away. I carried him back to his colony. I saved his life," her voice trembled. "When my people discovered what I had done, they called it betrayal. They said I had poisoned the balance between our kinds. They stripped me of my name, my place, my family. They left me to wander, an outcast. I have been alone ever since." Daniel stared at her, stunned. "You saved a child? And for that, they destroyed your life?" Sira nodded. "To them, compassion for humans is a crime." Silence filled the room. Daniel's heart twisted. He had feared she was dangerous, but the truth was crueler than he imagined. She had risked everything for kindness, and she had lost everything because of it. He leaned forward. "You saved one child, then? And now you're saving mine?" Her glowing eyes met his, and for a moment they shared the same pain, the same need to protect what little they had. But the moment broke when a loud voice echoed outside. A soldier's command cut through the night. "All citizens to the square." At once, Daniel's blood turned cold. He rushed to wake his daughters. Emily clutched his hand. Sarah carried her doll tight against her chest. Together, the family stepped into the night, joining the crowd already gathering. Sira followed behind, her hood pulled low, her face hidden in shadows. In the square, the patrol ship loomed like a beast. Soldiers stood in a line, their weapons shining under harsh lights. The lead officer stepped forward, his voice hard as stone. "By order of the council, all outcasts must be surrendered. Any who shelter them will share their punishment. Tonight we begin the purge." Gasps spread through the crowd. Mothers pulled their children closer. Men exchanged fearful glances. Daniel felt his daughters press against him, trembling. A soldier read out names. 2 aliens were dragged forward from hiding, their hands bound. They begged, but no one dared to defend them. The officer announced their sentence: exile beyond the wastelands where storms killed within days. Daniel's throat burned. He looked at Sira, who stood behind him, her body stiff. Her eyes glowed faintly under the hood, but her face was calm, too calm. She had expected this. When the names ended, the officer spoke again. "We know there are more. Spies have reported strange shadows, strange voices in certain homes. We will find them. And when we do, those who hid them will pay with their lives." The crowd shifted uneasily. Daniel felt the weight of many eyes turning toward him. He knew the whispers had already poisoned their minds. He tightened his grip on his daughter's hands, his chest heavy with dread. When the people were finally dismissed, Daniel hurried his family back to the house. Inside, the girls clung to Sira, whispering, "Don't let them take you." Sira knelt, pulling them close, her voice firm but gentle. "I will never leave you willingly, but you must be brave." Later, when the children were asleep, Daniel faced her again. His voice shook with anger and fear. "The purge has begun. They won't stop until they find you." Sira's face was unreadable. "Then you must decide. Will you risk everything for me, or will you cast me out as they did?" Daniel stared at her, torn apart inside. She had saved his daughter's hearts, given them comfort, given him hope. But keeping her meant doom. Losing her meant survival, but also emptiness. His voice was low, almost broken. "I cannot cast you out, not now. Not after what we've become." Outside, the patrol ship's lights swept across the colony again, cutting through the darkness like blades. Inside, a fragile family sat in silence, knowing the storm was moving closer and soon it would crash against their door. The colony no longer felt like home. It felt like a cage. Every corner held whispers, every shadow held suspicion. The soldiers walked the streets each day, their boots striking like drums of fear. And above it all, the patrol ship waited, watching, ready to strike. Daniel knew the time had come. They could not hide forever. If they stayed, the purge would swallow them. One night, after his daughters were asleep, he laid a map on the table. The parchment was old, edges torn, but it showed a path through the wastelands. Beyond the desert storms, there were rumors of free colonies, places where the council had no power, places where humans and aliens lived together, hidden from the law. He traced the path with his finger, his jaw tight. "It's dangerous," he whispered. "But it's the only way." Sira stood across from him. Her glowing eyes studied the map, then lifted to his face. "The storms kill even the strong. If we try, the children may not survive." Daniel met her gaze, steady but burning. "If we stay, we lose them anyway. I would rather die running than watch them be taken from me." Sira lowered her head. For a moment she was silent, then she nodded. "Then we run." The plan was simple. At dawn, when most soldiers returned to the ship for reports, they would slip away through the back path, carrying only what they could hide under their clothes. No bags, no large bundles, nothing to draw eyes. Daniel gathered water flasks, dried roots, and the sharp knife he always kept at his belt. Sira prepared cloaks stitched with hidden layers, to shield the children from the dust. But even the best plans crumble when betrayal is near. On the night before their escape, Daniel stepped outside to fetch more water from the well. The air was dry and sharp, the stars blurred by drifting dust. As he lowered the bucket, a voice spoke from behind him. "You look restless, Daniel." He turned. A neighbor stood in the shadows, a man named Joran, thin-faced, always watching. Joran had been kind once after Daniel's wife died, but now his eyes glowed with something colder. "Hard to sleep these days," Daniel muttered, pulling the bucket up. Joran stepped closer. "Strange things happen in your house. Lights at night, voices. The soldiers think you hide someone, perhaps an outcast." His lips curled into a thin smile. "If that is true, you should be careful. The council pays well for truth." Daniel's hand tightened on the bucket. He forced a calm voice. "You see shadows where there are none." Joran shrugged. "Perhaps, but shadows can be dangerous." He leaned close, his breath sour. "When they come tomorrow, they will look at you first." Daniel's chest turned to stone. He carried the water back home, his face pale. Inside, Sira saw his eyes and asked no questions. She already knew. Before dawn, they woke the children. Emily held her sister's hand, her small face serious. Sarah carried her doll, wrapped in cloth like a secret treasure. Sira placed cloaks over them, covering their hair, hiding their shapes. Daniel kissed each daughter's head, whispering, "Stay close to us. Don't speak unless you must." They slipped into the dark, moving along the narrow back path behind the colony. The houses loomed silent, windows dark. For a moment, Daniel believed they might succeed. The air was cold but still, the ground firm underfoot. Then came the sound. Boots. Heavy, many, moving fast. Shouts broke the silence. "There, stop them!" Daniel's heart stopped. Joran had done it. He had betrayed them. From the square, soldiers poured out, their lights cutting through the dark. The patrol ship's engines roared, lighting up the colony with blinding beams. "Run!" Daniel shouted. He pulled Emily's hand, Sierra lifted Sarah into her arms, and they fled into the open path beyond the colony walls. Dust rose around them as boots thundered behind. The wasteland stretched ahead, endless and cruel, but it was the only hope. The children cried, their voices drowned by the storming wind. Daniel's legs burned as he ran, his lungs filled with dust. Sierra moved swiftly, carrying Sarah with strength beyond human. Yet the lights grew closer, the soldiers' shouts sharper. They reached a narrow ridge, rocks jutting like broken teeth. Daniel led them down, stumbling, his knife drawn. Behind them, the first shots fired, bright bolts of energy tearing through the air, striking the rocks. Sparks flew, the night exploding with sound. Emily tripped, falling hard on the stones. Daniel grabbed her, lifting her to her feet. "Keep running!" he cried, his voice raw. Sierra turned, her glowing eyes blazing in the dark. She placed Sarah down and stepped forward, her tall frame shining faintly. She spread her arms wide, her voice fierce. "Go, I will stop them." Daniel spun, his face pale with horror. "No, you can't." "They'll kill you." Her eyes locked on his. "They'll kill us all if I don't. Save your daughters." Soldiers closed in, their lights flashing, their weapons raised. Sierra stood alone between them and the family, her silver skin gleaming like a shield. Daniel froze, torn between love and terror, his daughters clinging to his hands, their small bodies shaking. The storm wind howled across the wasteland, carrying the sound of soldiers shouting, weapons charging. In that single moment, the fragile family stood at the edge of fate, and Sierra, the outcast, prepared to give everything to protect the only home she had left. The wasteland stretched wide under a torn sky, dust twisting like smoke in the wind. Daniel stood frozen, holding his daughters close, his eyes locked on Sierra. She stood between them and the soldiers, her silver skin glowing faintly in the beams of their weapons. The patrol lights cut across her frame, turning her into a target. The soldiers advanced, their voices sharp. "Step aside, human. Hand over the outcast. By law, she must die." Daniel's heart hammered in his chest. He looked down at Emily and Sarah. Their faces were pale, streaked with tears, their little hands gripping his arms with desperate strength. Behind them lay only darkness, the wastelands waiting to swallow them. Ahead stood death in the form of soldiers and law. Sierra turned her head slightly, her glowing eyes finding Daniel's. "Go," she whispered. "Save them. I will hold them back." Daniel shook his head violently, his voice cracked. "No, I will not leave you, not now. Not ever." The soldiers raised their weapons. A charge hummed in the air, bright sparks of deadly energy gathering at the barrels. Daniel felt the ground slip away beneath him. Fear clamped his chest, but something deeper rose in his blood, something stronger than fear. He let go of Emily's hand, stepping forward to stand beside Sierra. He spread his arms wide, shielding her with his own body. His voice thundered against the night. "This is my family. If you want her, you will kill me first." The soldiers paused, their weapons still aimed. Murmurs rippled among them, uncertain. A human protecting an outcast was forbidden, a crime worth death. Yet Daniel's eyes blazed with a fire that shook even their cold hearts. Emily and Sarah suddenly broke free from behind him. The girls rushed forward, their small voices rising, sharp and fearless. Emily cried, "She is our mother." Sarah screamed, "Don't take our mama!" The words rang out across the wasteland. The soldiers froze, stunned by the sound of children crying for love. Even the officer hesitated, his weapon lowering slightly as he stared at the two little girls clinging to the alien woman. Sierra's hands trembled as she bent low, wrapping her arms around the children. Her glowing eyes filled with tears, something Daniel had never seen. She whispered to them, "I am no one's mother. But if you call me that, then I will be." The soldiers shifted uneasily. Some looked away, their grips loosening on their weapons. But the officer's voice cut the air like steel. "The law does not bend for love. Hand her over, or all of you will die." Daniel stepped forward again, his knife drawn, his stance unshaken. "Then kill me. Kill us all, because we will not give her to you." Silence spread like a heavy cloud. The officer raised his weapon, but his hands did not fire. Behind him, one soldier muttered, "They're just children." Another said, "This is wrong." The officer snarled, Quiet, the law is clear. But the hesitation spread. The line of soldiers broke into whispers, doubt crawling into their ranks. At last, the officer lowered his weapon slightly, though his face burned with fury. You think you can defy the council? You think you can survive without law? The galaxy will never forgive this. Daniel held his daughters close, his voice steady, unbroken. I don't need the galaxy's forgiveness. I need my family. And she is part of it. The officer spat on the ground, then motioned sharply to his men. We are done here. For now. The soldiers withdrew slowly, their footsteps fading into the storm. The patrol ship roared, lifting into the night sky. Its lights faded until only the wasteland stars remained. Daniel sank to his knees, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on him. His daughters clung to Sierra, refusing to let go. She held them tightly, her body shaking, her tears falling silently into the dust. For a long time, no one spoke. The wind howled, carrying away the echoes of the soldiers' boots. Finally, Sierra lifted her face to Daniel, her eyes glowing with something new. Not just sadness, not just fear, but hope. You risked everything, she whispered. Daniel reached out, his hand trembling, brushing her silver skin as if to prove she was real. You are worth everything. The children pressed close between them, their small voices whispering, Mama, Papa. We are safe now. Daniel looked out across the wasteland. He knew safety was only a fragile dream. The council would not forget. The galaxy's law would still hunt them. But in this moment, in this storm, they had chosen love over fear, family over law. And sometimes one choice was enough to change everything. As the night wrapped around them, 4 figures held together in the dust, a fragile family bound not by blood, not by law, but by something far stronger, the promise that no matter what came, they would face it together.